still want to get these in. Chip can go home. Thanks.
Good, I can breathe now.
All right, and the only thing that Maria just gave me one. The only thing that I had to suggest tonight was to bring up to see if we have any laws and rules that we need to consider changing before we pass laws and rules for the year and the next regular scheduled meeting.
Oh, you mean rules of council?
Rules of council, right.
Well, I have a couple of suggestions. I would like to suggest that, to add that each committee should meet at least once a quarter, that the dates should be entered on the first council meeting of the year. If there's nothing to discuss or it needs to be canceled, it's okay, no big deal, but I think that it should be entered at the beginning of the year. And also, in the event that the chair or co-chair could not meet on the assigned date, the absence of the co-chair should not prevent a meeting with the village manager and other village personnel. The presence of the chair or co-chair should constitute a quorum, and a summary of the discussion should be given to Mrs. Life as soon as possible, so some kind of record is kept in case of questions. We have already discussed that, and Mr. Mayor, you have agreed with that, but we couldn't enforce it because there was nowhere to be enforced. So this way we make it enforceable.
I just think it would be, you need 2 people for a quorum. I'm just in my mind seeing the sunshine laws. That means if I'm by myself somewhere at all times, I am the traffic and safety committee. So at all times, if I even, in my mind, I'm thinking the worst possible situation, but if one person constitutes a quorum or one person with the municipal manager constitutes a quorum, that just seems a little
kind of reckless.
Yeah. Or
it just seems like we could be inviting trouble if you make the quorum that concise. I originally was opposed to the idea of forcing committee meetings to occur, and that was because I felt so overwhelmed with the 75th anniversary and my other committee and all that was going on. I do think it's a good idea for us to meet.
I think quarterly is not a big thing to ask, with the caveat that if it's not needed or for some reason emergency of some sort occurs, it could be canceled. But I would like to have, when I don't have somebody with me, I would like to still have a meeting, which I did. It was not a meeting per se for the committee, but I met with Mike Castor, for example. Mr. Moore happened to be there. Ms. Kovac was there.
Yeah,
and I'd make a summary of what went on in that meeting. It's not a minute, because at this time I'm not allowed to do that. It's not voted upon, but I think that there should be a record somewhere, and I will do that and send it to Mrs. Lives. But there are certain things that need to be discussed that are happening in our village that perhaps it's not possible for a chair and a co-chair to meet.
is there a way to make, this is just top of my head, so sorry, Dave. Dave, a member of all the committees, And if he's there along with a council member, then there's
That
a
is
quorum.
that is not a problem.
Because then there would be 3 people on a committee, so if,
That is not a problem.
I mean.
He comes to all the meetings anyway.
A lot of them. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Never come to one of mine.
They told me they didn't like you.
That's right.
But we met,
But I mean, would that be a better, I mean,
Well, and I just wanna, it sounds like it's not a problem, but twice a year seems reasonable to me, more than a quarter. Given events and council meetings and work sessions and all the other myriad of things that I get tied into, I don't know if I.
well, we can put a wording in there quarterly if needed, or something like that.
Well, if you say if needed, then,
When
I mean-
needed or as needed.
well, I think it's either, if you're gonna say quarterly, you mean quarterly, whether, obviously, if it's not needed.
Well, it's not subject to cancellation in that
Well,
case.
yeah, every meeting is subject to cancellation. I just thought to go from no requirement of meeting, and I do think it's a good idea to at least twice a year with retreats, with other committee meetings. I'm just throwing that out there just as a discussion point, so I don't know what you guys think.
Mhm.
yeah, the once a quarter, I know traffic and safety, obviously that's fine. The finance committee, I know we end up meeting more at the end of the year than we do at the beginning of the year. I guess I'd like Glenn to weigh in on that. I know we had 4 meetings last year, but I couldn't say that they were all, that there was one in each quarter.
Well, perhaps the wording of at least 4 meetings, or at least, 2 meetings, it just doesn't seem like it's enough for some of the committees.
Well, some of the meetings have not met.
Well, I know,
So
I know,
two
but that, I
seems
know.
moving in the right
So
direction.
that's why we're moving in that direction, because the original proposition was, when Mr. Murrow was here, to do it quarterly, and Mr. Moore says, I cannot enforce it because there's not a rules of council. So I'm giving an avenue here for Mr. Moore to be able to enforce that. You're the enforcer.
Sounds like a zoning discussion. We can't enforce that. Should we get Glenn's take on this as well then?
Well, we're voting on the rules of council on the next meeting, that's what I'm saying.
I know, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that I think he should be part of the discussion in some way, or part of it made him aware. Did you send this to him?
No, because
I would,
I just found out when I got the minutes, not the minutes, the calendar or whatever,
The agenda.
the agenda, and I called Mr. Moore immediately because I said, what is happening, because I don't know. And he says, I thought that it would be an idea if someone would like to discuss or add or something in there to do that.
You know what, here's what really gets me, guys. If you're a head of a committee and you end up having a meeting, and whoever shows up in the meeting, you're actually doing the job that you're asked to do. Okay? The other person who's a part of your committee that's his or her subcommittee.
Mhm,
They have another committee of their own,
mhm.
or whatever it is. If we end up meeting 10 times a year,
But that's why I put it.
because I'm taking care of my job,
Mhm.
you take care of your job. When I show up, let's say for instance for yours, I'm just there because I'm the part of the subcommittee that makes you feel better. Because I don't do anything.
But that's
I
why.
say yes and no, and you mainly talk with them.
And this is why I'm saying in here, in that case, to do that, what I did the last time, meet with my counselor and the village manager, and
Right,
then-
but I mean-
and then write something up, so it would be some record of it.
But that would be a record no matter what, if I was there or not, or, you know what I mean, if he doesn't show up
Correct.
So it's
Because
basically, according to this, we're required now, if we would go ahead and proceed, that means that we would be required, if I'm understanding correctly, to be twice a quarter. Because I'd have to go to my committee meeting, and I'd have to go to.
No, each committee,
Yeah,
No,
Oh.
my committee meeting, and then
Yeah.
I would be a co-chair on another.
Right, that's what he's saying.
I
Okay.
happen to go to recreation. I think, right, with the amount of time that I've spent at meetings, at events, and I feel fine. I love the village, and I will give it my all. I
And you
feel
have.
a little intimidated, to have that hanging over my head, going, oh, am I going to this meeting? And to all of a sudden to go mandatory, 2 times a quarter
Well, I have
on top.
I have no
Yeah.
problem changing the wording to once a quarter for the chair to hold the meeting. And then if you have the meeting with whoever else is in there, just make some kind of summary of it, so there will be a record of that.
I mean, could the chair be, and department head be a subcommittee, so meet twice per year with the committee and at least twice per year with the subcommittee?
I like that better.
Mhm.
You know, what's interesting about this, guys, is that right now, besides Glenn, this is my, I've already been here 8 years. What you guys are talking about right now was never talked about when the first 4 or 5 years I was on council. There was no meetings, nobody ever held any meetings. They talked about committee meetings, I'm sure finance did it for sure, and I'm sure some of the other people did. I know that when Fred would actually be involved with the school, when he was on intergovernmental affairs, laws and rules. As far as him having meetings, if the other person didn't show up, he was just doing his job.
Mhm.
That's, you know, that was him, he was committed to that. Now, him saying that, he's a mayor, he's saying that. Because that's what it says, committee chairperson and a co-chair. Let's not make this really too detailed. Because, you know, if we're involved with Greenhills, we know we are, because we love Greenhills, let's leave it at that. It's not the meeting that makes a difference, it's what we do outside the meeting, you know, to make things
Well,
happen.
and to compound that, or to add on to that a little bit, I don't want to, I do think it's a good idea for committees to get together. And I'm guilty of not having, you know, as many committee meetings as I should, for sure. But I just, you know, I just feel like having a meeting does not guarantee progress. And I feel like there's a lot of things that a number of us have done to really move the needle forward in the village. And I didn't need someone telling me I'm gonna have a meeting and I'm gonna have it so many times a year. My other concern too is things move quick, and I just don't wanna fall short of breaking this rule if I don't feel like I can live by it every time.
I think rather than holding our feet to the fire using the vehicle, the rules of council, if we just made a commitment,
Yeah.
each one of us, that by the, you know, the formal meeting in January, that we all submit a calendar
I like that.
that has the meeting dates. It pretty much addresses points 1 and 2.
And maybe we could do that by
you know,
retreat.
and if you can't submit that calendar, then what's wrong with you? I mean, you know, there's 12 months, pick a day, you know?
Except you kind of have to coordinate with your co-chair too, to make sure it's good for both your schedules.
Okay.
I'll stand by, I think that twice a year is
That's smart.
reasonable
This
to
is
me.
mine.
You know,
I agree with that too.
you know, the whole thing about, you know, the co-chair and chair, you know, and I know with, you know, Maria's had her own health issues, and with that, we haven't been able to hit a couple meetings here in the past couple of months. I don't know that it's been earth-shattering that we haven't had those meetings, but whether it involved not having the two of us there together to actually move things along, I don't know. I don't feel that strongly about it. But I do feel that it's pretty daggone easy to develop a calendar.
Well, I just passed mine for the streets and services, and for the next year, if Yvonne will be so kind to put it on the website.
Well,
Or
the
Mrs.
calendar,
Lives, or, yeah, the calendar of
Oh.
events, or something like that, that would be great.
So,
Well, Jeff and I, we're gonna have to get together and talk about our 2 meetings.
yeah.
Well, it sounds like the general
Can
consensus is.
we agree that you'll come to the January meeting with something?
Oh, you're talking about next, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, have.
Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can do something.
Okay.
All right.
And it's
Definitely
okay,
subject to change.
and it's okay, with everybody then, that if, the co-chair is not present, you could still meet if you have to resolve something or discuss something with the
Oh,
village
yeah.
manager,
Yeah.
or, you know, or Mr. Moore, or anything, we can do that as well, and then just report on that.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
all right.
Okay,
All right.
all right, I'll run around and see if anybody else has got something. So do you have anything else to add for the work session?
No,
Not at this time,
I'm just curious about the holiday light awards.
Oh, 227, I think, and we have our ACE designer
Divided by
working on it.
6 is how
Ace
many?
designer.
Oh, we divided by 7.
Oh, by
Yeah.
7, even
Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
okay.
I think that the designer and printer might not have to deliver them.
And that's fine too, I don't care. I agree with that one too.
it was an honor to ride around looking at
That's
the
true.
glorious lights.
And you guys have invested, so.
And I said if we need money, we should have some somewhere to pay for the printing cost or the
I think
paper or
that's
something. Well,
Not,
We can talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what can happen, you can always do it when I pay for that out.
I might-
Yeah.
Just send me the bill, I don't mind, doing that. Okay?
Well, I'm sure we'll work out. The printing is free. I've got a printer sitting there that's ready to go.
No, I really mean it, just, you know, I'm willing to do that, no,
Yeah,
no
I think I
problems.
brought you the paper bill for the last one. It was like $14 or something, so. Just a side note on the, since I have, I don't know what was reasonable to ask price-wise or anything. I know that, I threw an amount out. I don't know if you caught my amount, but, I like Jack's amount better.
How much,
$75.
Oh,
How
it's
much
100
did-
now.
I was gonna say,
I
how
got a
much-
C note, you got I'll give you a C
Maria,
note.
do you know how much, Thad paid for the mail fare? I mean, what is the going price?
Well, it might be a difference between a male or a female, we don't know about the owl though, but,
This was finished too,
Or
wasn't
just
it?
what
well,
the range?
no, his was not finished.
Okay, because they have them colored there.
It started out as a male,
I was just gonna say,
It's also-
do you remember what the range of
I
prices
don't
were?
remember, I think it,
Well, one thing I
I
thought.
thought it was like 40, 60 bucks, wasn't it?
I think it was a little
Yeah.
bit more than that,
Was it?
I think so, but I can ask him and call you back.
And was that one painted?
No, not that.
Okay, we have 3 of them, because I think if we go ahead and sell this, I knew you threw out $75, and I thought, I know it's post 75th anniversary, but that seemed like a good
Oh,
amount.
yeah.
So, if that's good, then I will make everybody else in the community aware of the other 2, if anybody else wants to buy it for that same amount. If that sounds reasonable to you guys.
When do you need the money?
And the bear is painted?
When do you need the owl?
Right away. It's
The
gonna
bear-
take Peggy a little
Time
time
for
to get
Peggy
it done.
to paint it. before-
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the bear is painted. He's kind of cute. If you live in Maine. No. So maybe that one's on. Okay,
Have anything else? to-
not
work
at this,
session?
not at this time.
No? Okay. And I can't believe a year has gone by already since I started this gig.
Started this gig.
I have one more thing.
Eventually, I may get, I definitely need to make a cheat sheet, so I know whether to roll call or say aye, but you would think after a year I'd learn
No,
that.
it's tough. It's,
But you know, as far as critiquing, I think you've gotten a lot better in this process. So, you know,
Okay.
I have one more thing that we
Yeah.
discussed, because we
Right.
were together at this meeting for the Hamilton County Health
Right.
Department.
Yeah.
And then there were a couple of interesting things that were thrown in there at the time. One of them, well, it's the sheriff bill was added to it, and it was voted into that. They don't know if they're going to stay in it because they have a vote in November that the members of the community got enough signatures to stay out of it again and be alone in their own health board themselves in Sharonville. But I found out a couple of things that they have a right to, or we have the right to as members of the Hamilton County Board of Health. Besides the information about oh gosh, what are the little critters and, that are planting in Cincinnati?
Bed bugs.
Bed bugs.
Yeah.
Besides information about the bed bugs and all of that, they say that they also, do not just show up to places, but if, people call them about concerns about a particular place, they come up to check it out. And some of the calls that they have received have been for hoarders.
Orders?
And- Yes, and some of them have been for, other health issues involved in there. So I thought that was really interesting that we, that's one of the possibilities that we have. Second, I found really interesting that, the village, the Cherylville has a, when they had their own private health group in there, they had, and they're going to continue to have, but instead of 1.5 nurses, they're only going to have half nurse to go and visit the residents that cannot come out, that they are housebound, things like that. And they're still going to keep that to a lesser extent because they're going to keep only half a nurse half time.
I was just wondering what after.
Half time. And then also that Hamilton County Board of Health would allow, or the request and no charge, to have an area and designated time to provide vaccinations. So like the flu, the pneumonia, things like that on a certain time of the year that is prevalent to do, that they will go out to the area to provide those. So I don't know if that's something that we would like to investigate further, because I think that if they're going to provide that at no cost, that would be a plus for
You say
many.
And no cost, yeah,
For the vaccinations are free, yeah. The
Okay.
vaccinations are free. Now, the
But their
nurse,
time will be charged.
the nurse that would be doing that would be whatever amount of time, whatever many amount of hours that we would require for her to provide the vaccinations. But she's already being half-time, very close by. So, and I just thought I'd throw that because I mentioned it to Mr. Moore and he thought that was interesting too. That was the first time that I've been going through those things, and this is the first time I heard that.
Yeah, it really comes down to how much that would actually cost on an average, and see where we're gonna get the money to pay for that.
Well, and isn't there, like, I know that if you're tied in to certain insurance, you have to go a certain place even for the vaccinations, right? Or, like, if I go to Kroger and, if I'm under that insurance, it's paid for, or at least most of it's paid for. So I don't know how that works with if you have an independent.
But when you go to the centers, there are county centers. Sometimes, for example, the vaccinations were not available at the doctor's office, instead I went to Butler County Health,
Okay.
and he just got it there for free. So if you're a senior citizen, you're entitled to certain things like that. It doesn't have to be involved in insurance.
Yeah, I
Well,
just don't know what the facts are.
And if you go like to Walgreens or CVS, and you're a Medicare, Medicare will cover the
Correct.
shot.
Correct.
But you have to fill out forms
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. And I know in the past, but I don't know how long ago it was, they used to, the Legion each year used to have
Yeah, they
somebody
did.
come out,
Yes, they did.
and those were free,
Yeah.
if I remember
Yes, they
correctly.
did.
But I don't know who, what group came to give shots.
Yeah. We're talking about quite a few years back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, maybe it's something worth asking the Board of Health if,
Are you
how
able to get
they,
more
how they do
details?
that in the fall.
No, this was just on the meeting. The meeting was 20 minutes,
Where
and
are
then
their places?
It was
Where they
it was adjourned.
visits?
Now, we have another meeting coming up in March, the regular meeting. Maybe for that meeting, maybe we can just preview the questions or something that we need to ask.
Yeah, to see if the Board of Health, how they do
How they do
their
that, yeah.
system.
But I found it really interesting, and I thought that I'd bring it to the table here.
And just so council knows that we do use the Board of Health when we need to, when we have issues, especially code enforcement issues, to call the inspectors in. They're really very good to work with.
Was there any mention of Jeff hoarding wooden figurines in those garages.
No, that was,
If that was the case, it wouldn't be there.
that was, news, just very recent news.
And if he sells those, he'll be able to.
And
get
then he
his
will no
car in
longer
the
be
garage.
hoarding them, yeah, so.
I don't want to ever get his car in the garage.
I've heard he's been scalping
It's been in
other
the-
tree stumps
Yeah.
lately, though.
Oh.
I'm gonna start that as a side. I do have, if I can step back for a second
Okay.
and answer one question. We needed to put together an invoice, because the Alzheimer's Center had agreed to pay half the signage for the Harvest Festival. If you could see that that takes place, it was $300. He said all he needs is an invoice and he'll take care of it.
That's his amount?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you know if Maple Knoll provides any services to us anymore? Anybody know? Since they used to, but.
Some of us aren't that old,
Address
Dave.
John Rare.
Hmm?
Some of us aren't that old.
I know.
Well, I know, but
I
they,
think it's just,
there are other avenues there for senior citizens that it would be probably a minimal cost or no
Yeah.
cost that would be nice to explore.
too far.
I mean, I just thought of it, if nothing else, to broaden it to streets and services. So no one accuses me that I was.
She really expands the
Yeah.
services, doesn't
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you
she?
wanna,
No, thank you.
All
I'm
right.
fine.
Harry, no more? We have a,
Motion to adjourn?
okay. So be.
Second.